Today's topic is pre and post slaughter inspection of small ruminants, a meat safety aspect. So, first comes into our mind that why meat inspection is required. So, we know that to ensure the meat from the animals which are free from disease and wholesome and have no risk to human health. So, how we can get them? Because we need that veterinarian, we need that expert who can judge the animals. Okay, the animals are healthy or not, either they are fit for the human consumption or not. So second is to ensure the humane slaughter. Here the animal welfare concept come into the picture, because the animal welfare, if we are not following the animal welfare, there's a breach in there's breach in animal welfare. The animals are under stress, and they are not reared as per the guidelines. Then what will happen? We will not get that good quality meat for the human consumption. So it is this meat inspection, it is done at two stages by a veterinarian, at pre-slaughter and the post-slaughter. However, we can skip the pre-slaughter in case if we think that okay, the animals are suffering from a very acute pain, and if we go for the pre-slaughter inspection, then what will happen? It will breach the animal welfare. Then we can directly shift to the emergency slaughter. So animal welfare concept while slaughter, how we can assure that the animal welfare can be, animal welfare is there while slaughtering the animals. So animal welfare concept is linked directly to the animal health and involves an animal who is free from any physical, biological or the mental stress. So animals who are stressed, experiencing pain, discomfort, or they are inadequately fed, watered, or housed, they will lead to the poor quality meat production. It is very essential for the livestock establishment. So the slaughterhouse, who is the competent authority, the competent authority who is taking care of that slaughterhouse, it is the duty of that competent authority that animal welfare is fully assured. So, to assure that animal welfare, the prevention of cruelty to animals rules come into the picture, where it states that no animal shall be slaughtered. So, we cannot slaughter the animals if they are pregnant, if they are having the offspring less than 3 months old, if the animals, if they are kids, they are of 3 months of age and has not been certified a veterinarian that is fit for the slaughter. So antemortem inspection, as such, we know it is inspection before death, and all the animals, they must receive antemortem inspection, and inspection, it is performed by a veterinarian or the meat inspector under the veterinary supervision. So antemortem examination should be done within 24 hours of the slaughter, and it should be repeated if slaughter has been delayed by over a day. So what happens? Sometimes we see that okay, the animal is under stress or animal is having some fever. So we just delay the slaughter for 1 to 2 days or 2 to 3 days. So in that case, on the arrival, when they arrive at the slaughter facility, we need to inspect them, and after that we need to inspect after 2 3 days when they are going to slaughter. So on the day of arrival as well as on the day of slaughter, we need to go for the antemortem inspection. So what is the purpose of antemortem inspection? So here, if we are going for antemortem inspection, we can select the adequately rested animals where the animal welfare is not breached, and so that the animals can be slaughtered for the human consumption. And moreover, we can isolate the disease or the suspected abnormal animals, and we can prevent the contamination of the dressing area, premises, equipment, and the personals. So contamination can be prevented. For example, if we are not doing antemortem inspection and the animal is suffering from any communicable disease or the contagious one, so what will happen? It will contaminate the dressing area, premises, equipments, all the even it may happen that disease may be a zoonotic one. So it will affect the health of the handlers as well as the workers working in the slaughterhouse. Further, to obtain the information which may be necessary for the post-mortem inspection. So what happens sometimes, it is anti-mortem inspection is not alone help in the judgment of the meat quality. Moreover, sometimes post-mortem inspection is not alone making the basis for the fit for the consumption. So we need to align the antemortem symptoms with the post-mortem inspections, post-mortem findings. So to obtain the necessary information, we need that antemortem inspection. And then to ensure that injured animal or those with acute pain or suffering, they undergo the emergency slaughter. So three questions comes into the mind: when it should be done, when where antemortem inspection should be conducted, and what are the requirements. So when I have told earlier that on the same day of the slaughter and within the 24 hours of the delivery to the abattoir, so it should be conducted in the layerage. Every slaughter facility should have the layerage facility so that animal can be inspected properly, and must have the proper light. It sometimes it happens that there is a poor light and we cannot judge the animal, okay, the animal is in fine health or not. And these layerages must be provided with isolation pen and crushes. So sometimes what happens when we find, okay, two or three animals are not feeling apparently healthy, we are feeling like they are not fit for consumption, so we can isolate in the pen or the crushes. And there must be the proper assistant staff should be present so that they can be handled properly. So what are the facilities required? So must have adequate light. So light should be 110 lux, that is measured 1 meter above the ground level. And the size of the pens, it should be 1.6 square meter per small animals, means sheep and goat. And there must be adequate facilities for watering. So these examination preferably should be in daylight. And here is a check for the veterinary doctor that veterinarian should examine thoroughly not more than 12 animals and in a hour, and not more than 96 animals in a day. So what are the outcome if we go for the antemortem inspection? Either we pass the animal unconditionally that they are fit for consumption, or we pass for the restricted slaughter, or we pass for the emergency slaughter. And sometimes we withheld the animals, and generally it is not done with sheep and goat. And last is we can completely reject the animals, okay, they are not fit for consumption, they are the condemned one. So we will take care one by one. So what is first of all, what is the procedure of antemortem inspection? First is the identification of the animal and collection of details regarding the place of purchase and origin. So it is very important because traceability is the checkpoint. Because if we are finding that, okay, there is a contagious disease in one animal and it is coming from so and so shed or so and so owner, so that we can trace back and we can find, okay, it's is it limited to the only one animal or it is in the whole farm. So owner's name, number of animals in a lot, and arrival time, species and sex of the animal, time and date of antemortem inspection, all the details should be there. And if we are not making it fit, if we are not judging the animal as fit for consumption, so we need to write over there the reason why the animal was withheld. So animals to be inspected both in rest as well in motion on the both sides. And there are many abnormalities which may be observed during antemortem examination. For example, there's abnormality in respiration, behavior, gait, posture, structure, and conformation. There may be discharges or protrusions from body openings. There may be odor or the temperature fluctuations. It may be subnormal or it may be high temperature. So, if we are finding the abnormalities in respiration, the abnormalities in respiration we can clearly see after looking at the ribs of the animal. So, there may be the abnormal frequency of respiration, and predominantly the abdominal respiration is there in goats. However, if we see the costo-abdominal, that means there is some problem in the animal. And the animals who are experiencing the abnormalities in the respiration, they must be segregated and labeled as suspect. So sometimes we observe the abnormal gait, posture, and behavior. Sometimes we see the goats are walking in circle or show an abnormal gait or posture. Sometimes they press their head against the wall and charging at various objects and acting aggressively. So sometimes we feel that they are showing a dull or anxious expression in the eyes. So these all are the abnormal behavior. Further, an abnormal gait is associated with the pain in legs, chest, or abdomen, and it may be an indication of neurological disease. So, if we found the slow vowel gait, it may be due to the septicemia. If we are finding the stiff gait, it may be due to the traumatic pericarditis. And if the animals are walking in circle, it may be the gait, it may be listeriosis. So all the animals we will keep in the suspect label. Then abnormal appearance. So healthy animal is very glossy with smooth hair coat, and level of hydration is a good indicator that animal is healthy. However, sometimes we found skin lesions, bruises and tear, emaciation and cachexia, and rough and starring hairs. So here are the glimpse of the lesions, and sometimes we found the fungal infection also we found, or the emaciation. So abnormalities in structures, sometimes we found that there are the enlarged joints in the goats, sometimes the umbilical swelling because of the hernia or the inflammation of vein. Then that is omphalophlebitis. Sometimes we found that they are enlarged and sensitive udder indicative of mastitis. Sometimes they are enlarged jaw, lumpy jaw, then bloated abdomen or swelling. And most of the time, swelling in the lymph node cases lymphadenitis is very common in small ruminants, especially in goat. Then abnormal discharges or protrusions sometimes we observe where the discharges from nose happen and excessive saliva from the mouth that usually come after birth, and the protrusion from rectum could be the case of rectal prolapse, uterine prolapse may be there, and tumors or growth on the eye, bloody diarrhea may be observed. Sometimes we observe the abnormal odors. However, it is very difficult to detect the odor. But in case of medicinal, sometimes there is a abscess, and the odor of abscess is medicinal one. Sometimes we observe the respiratory is stinkweed odor or the acetone odor, and putrefactive odor in case of putrid bronchitis. Sometimes we found that the temperature is not normal in the animal. The normal temperature is in sheep it is 39 degrees Celsius, and in goat it is 39.5 with a variation of 1 degree Celsius above or below. If there is rise in temperature, then it is a first indicator of the communicable disease. And if the greatest daily fluctuation is greater than 40.5 degrees Celsius, then it means there is a sublining disease which we need to establish in the later procedure. And sometimes we found the subnormal temperature which usually occur in the moribund animals. So, if we talk about the antemortem decisions on the basis of abnormalities and the conditions, either the animal is fit or the animal is suspected. If it is fit, it is free from disease and fit for human food. But if it is suspected or the slaughter is restricted, then we need to segregate those animals with abnormal signs into the suspect pen for further observation. So in that case, they are usually slaughtered at the end of the production run. And in the restricted slaughter, the animal who are in acute pain, they doesn't come under the suspect. They directly goes to the emergency slaughter. So another condition sometimes happen is the delayed slaughter, where when the animals are sometimes exhausted, they have traveled a lot while coming from farm to the abattoir, so they undergo transit fever. Sometimes the transportation journey is very long and very stressful. Then in that case, we just give a time of 3 to 4 days to the animals so that they can recover from that stress. So the aim of withholding these animal, it would be it give the appropriate treatment or the time so that animals, they can again be fit for the slaughter. So it avoids the unnecessary rejection of the animals, and it prevents the heavily soiled animals to enter in the food chain. So it prevents the unnecessary contamination of the animals, dressing area, and the processing personals. Then next is the casualty slaughter. So when the animals are suffering from disease or the injuries which do not render the meat unsuitable for human consumption, or they are not in acute pain or immediate danger of death, so they will undergo the casualty slaughter. So the animals suffering from obturator paralysis, postpartum paraplegia, or benign superficial tumors, so they can be slaughtered with the label of casualty slaughter, but they are slaughtered in the end of the normal slaughter. Now the emergency slaughter. Here, if the animals, they are under acute pain or suffering from a condition where delay in slaughter is contrary to animal welfare, we generally proceed for emergency slaughter. Sometimes what happens, that animal is healthy, but it is on the farm. We cannot transport that animal to the abattoir. For example, sometimes what happens, that animal is suffering from limb fracture or uncontrolled hemorrhages or injury causing severe pain. Sometimes they are under stress or functional or physiological disorders. So in that case, we need to slaughter the animal on the farm only, so that they can avoid the severe pain. And here in this case, the animal affected with extensive bruising or fractures or blood or uterine prolapse, they require the emergency slaughter at the abattoir. So if we are slaughtering on the farm, then it means that first of all, it need to follow some procedure, that veterinarian must be present while slaughter on the farm, and it must have undergone antemortem inspection. The body of the animal has not been must not been dressed, and there must be a veterinary certificate issued by a veterinarian, and body of the animal should be transported to the slaughterhouse in a hygienic condition within 1 hour of the slaughter. Otherwise, it will be declared as condemned, unfit for human consumption. So in slaughterhouses, post-mortem inspection is done to confirm its fitness. So in case of emergency animals, we are getting the dead carcass, this or the slaughtered carcass at the abattoir. So if we are not finding any kind of evidence of disease, the bacteriological test is negative, and the rigor mortis set is looking normal, then we can declare it fit for consumption. But if we find any little postmortem change during postmortem inspection, the whole carcass will be condemned. And the last one in the antemortem inspection is the rejected from the slaughter. So if they do not come under casualty slaughter or the delayed slaughter or the emergency one, and the animal is suffering from contagious disease and they are unfit for slaughter, they come under the category rejected from the slaughter. So the immature animals, animals with advanced pregnancy, recent parturition, moribund conditions, and the infectious and contagious disease like anthrax, rabies, black quarter, FMD, tetanus, contagious lymphadenitis, or the white scurs. If they are present in the animals, they will be rejected directly. They will not be slaughtered. So if the animal is suffering from scabies, they will be declared as unfit. Here is the scabies, and then if the caseous lymphadenitis. So here are the sites where you need to look at the look for the caseous lymphadenitis. If these caseous lymphadenitis, if it is generalized one, you need to make it unfit for the slaughter. If enterotoxemia, then also it is unfit. So it all depends upon the how better we go for the judgment under the antemortem inspection. So antemortem inspection is the assessment. It is not a wild guess, and the animals not pass for unconditional slaughter. We can summarize the antemortem inspection here, like if there are injuries, if there is a broken leg, dog bite, wound, unable to stand, then there is an emergency slaughter, or we can reject it as per the condition. If there is mere emaciation, the animal is very weak, we need to reject it directly. If the animal is heavily soiled, then we need to restrict the slaughter or we can condemn it. So if you find the emergency animal disease, if you are finding the notifiable disease at the abattoir, so first of all, you need to isolate the animal, you need to notify the authorities, you need to restrain the animals, and there must not be, the movement of dogs should not be there, and you must stop the inputs and outputs nearby that area, and you need to record all the symptoms as well as the timings when you find it, and you need to address that, okay, from which farm you are getting these animals. So here are the emergency animal signs. So if the animal is suffering from anthrax, then you will directly found it dead, and there may be the blood, unclotted blood from the openings. And foot and mouth disease, there may be drooling, there may be lameness, there may be unwilling to stand, and there is a smacking lips. So in PPR, the animals might be having coughing, drooling, then discharge from eyes, scoring. In case of Rift Valley fever, the discharge from eyes, scoring, lameness is there, unwilling to stand. Similarly, in scrappy, they are unwilling to stand, there is abnormal behavior, and the emaciated one. In case of sheep pox or the goat pox, drooling and discharge from the eyes, lameness, and skin lesions are the most commonly found signs. Then vesicular stomatitis. Here, in that case, drooling, lameness, unwilling to stand, and smacking lips are the common animal signs. So these, in this case, you need to directly condemn the animals. You don't need to go for the slaughter of the animals. So that was all about the antemortem inspection. Now we will move to the post-mortem inspection aspect. So the post-mortem inspection, it refers to the examination of the carcass, organs, and the part of meat used for human body by veterinary doctors after slaughtering and dressing. So it should be carried out as soon as possible after the dressing part. So in this case, the all organs like tongue, head, blood, liver, stomach, and intestine, and the carcass portions, they should be kept together, because we need to correlate the antemortem findings with the dressed carcass as well as with the offals. So they must be kept together, and the carcass is held in the suspended position while the visceral organs including the head and tongue, they are placed on hooks. in a separate area, and stomach and intestine, they remain in the basin or in the bucket. So during inspection, here the carcass, the care should be taken that we must not contaminate the carcass and organs from the diseased animals. So if you are finding that okay, this carcass is not apparently looking good, or not is showing some symptoms, like there are some abscesses are there or cyst is present, then you just separate it in the other area, so that, and the equipments used for that carcass must not be used for the other carcasses, otherwise it will cross contaminate the other carcasses and make the meat unfit for the consumption. So what are the essential required for post-mortem inspection? So area where the examination is being conducted should have sufficient and well distributed light, and natural light is considered better than the artificial light. Sometimes if we need to see okay, the area is inflamed or not, there is a inflammation or not, there's a petechiae hemorrhages are here, or it is in a limited area or the generalized one, so we need a good amount of light to see it in a natural condition. So if there is no provision of natural light, then the intensity of light should be 540 lux or 50-foot candles. And beside this, the person carrying inspection, they need clean, sharp stainless knives, and adequate hand washing units with supply of hot and cold running water, liquid soaps and towels must be present in that facility. So there should be a sterilizer which sterilize the knives, saw and cleavers, and stamping ink, the food grade ink, which is made up of 1 to 2% of fusion in acetic acid, should be provided, so that the veterinarian can mark it, okay, it is fit for consumption, it is unfit for consumption. So if we talk about the sterilization of knives, it can be done in boiling water for 30 minutes, or by by heating the knife for 10 to 15 minutes in oil, liquid petroleum or glycerine at temperature of 120 degrees Celsius or to 130 degrees Celsius. So it's a autoclaving. Autoclaving can also be done. But for anthrax, you need to become a very cautious, because there are spores, and a 37% solution of formalin is effective if we make one part of 8 to 9 parts to obtain the 10% solution. So it is effective against the spores of the anthrax. So what are the general considerations which we need to take care while post-mortem inspection? So it should be carried out as soon as possible and avoid as far as possible the artificial light, and should be carried out in daylight. Then carry out the examination methodically following a definite sequence, where you need to first understand that head and carcass you need to check, and after that viscera. You cannot go like first viscera and then carcass, otherwise you may cross contaminate. And great care must be taken at the time of inspection, particularly in cases suspected for zoonotic disease. And healthy carcasses should be examined before inspecting the diseased or the suspected one to avoid the cross contamination. Then identity of carcass and its viscera should be maintained. They should be kept together, and inspector should avoid unnecessary cuts considering the value of high quality food. So sometimes what happen, we just make incisions on the muscles without finding anything on the offal or in the other carcass parts. So we should avoid that. So one should incise the carcass in such a way that surface of the carcass appear clean and undistorted. Because here, if we are not doing the same, the market acceptability, it will decrease. So there are 4 postmortem principles, where first we need to visualize the carcass. So here in this, we first the carcass and visceral organ, they should be visually examined. Then palpation is done, where the organs being examined, they are palpated. and after that incision is made if it is required only. And if you are finding any kind of parasite or any kind of you are suspecting that okay, this bacteria can be happen, then we need to confirm it by the laboratory test. So what is the procedure? First, we need to go for head and carcass, where we need to examine the body cavities and outer surfaces. We need to palpate the back and side of the carcass. Then we need to examine the head, neck, and shoulders. Then we need to palpate the prescapular lymph nodes for cages lymphadenitis. Then we need to examine and palpate the kidneys, the femoral and popliteal and superficial inguinal and supramammary lymph nodes. And sometimes incision is made in the lymph nodes whenever it is necessary to exclude the caseous lymphadenitis. So after head and carcass, we need to examine the viscera, where we need to examine the abdominal viscera, esophagus, mesenteric lymph nodes, omental fat, and spleen. We need to examine the bile duct and gallbladder and their contents, then palpate the liver and costal and ventral surface of the lungs, then bronchi and mediastinal lymph nodes, and we need to examine and palpate the heart. So the now I'll talk about the conditions or the findings we just observe while the meat inspecting. So one of the most common finding is the abscess. Sometimes abscess is formed on the neck forequarter or hind quarter, and generally it happens because of the injection sites, because of the too much injection in the muscle. And here is a picture of the abscess. It can be superficial, it can be deep. So if it is superficial, it can be easily palpated, but if it is deep, then it is little bit difficult to determine. So what is the impact on the live animals if we are finding the abscess? So how we can correlate with the antemortem examination? So if it is superficial, there will be a local pain, tenderness, warmth, and swelling. And if it is deep, ill health symptoms may occur, including weight loss, fever, and fatigue, and this would affect the livestock performance. So impact on the carcasses would be there will be a loss of yield because of trimming and possible downgrading of the primal or carcass. And meat containing injection sites, they may enter the food chain. And sometimes what happens that abscesses are very deep, and sometimes they get calcified, and which leads to the toughness of the meat, so that we experience while cooking the same. So if the abscess is just to a limited site, then we can just condemn that part. But if it is multiple within the body, then we need to condemn the whole carcass. Second is if we find the abscess in lung. So lung abscess, they are found often caused by secondary opportunistic bacteria like Arcanobacterium pyogenes and Staphylococcus aureus. And how we can correlate with the live animal? Here there will be increased breathing rate and effort. Weight loss will be there, then coughing. So how we can correlate with the weight loss? So we must have record from the farm, from where it is coming, and what is the previous history of that animal. So from there we can correlate, okay, the weight loss is gradual or not. Then the animal may be suffering from coughing, or there is nasal discharge. So if we are finding in the carcass, it will lead to the rejection of the affected lung, and obviously it will lower the carcass weight and the yield, and it will affect the economy of the producer. So sometimes we found bruises, and it generally happens when tissues are damaged and blood vessels are ruptured. However, it is difficult to establish that how long before slaughter it has occurred, but it can be identified by seeing the location of the bruises, because generally they happen during loading or unloading, during transportation, or if the horned animals are mixed with the unfamiliar dehorned one, and in lamb if there is a wool pool. So here they are the glimpses of the wool pool. So if in that case it gets condemned if the wool pool is severe. Here, the bruising on the live animal, bruising can be an indicator of poor handling, which needs to be modified to maximize the animal behavior. And what is the impact on the carcass? The subject to depth and localization of the bruise, trimming may be carried out. So, as a result, carcass may be downgraded. It will reduce the economic value of the whole carcass. So next is the Cysticercus ovis. Is it? It is very common in the areas where the dogs are generally reared with the small ruminants. It is also called as sheep measle. Sheep measle, it refers to the cystic stage of the dog tapeworm. So it is a Cysticercus ovis, and the adult tapeworm stage, it is found in dogs and in foxes, and it is called as tinea ovis. So it has a huge effect on the industry. It leads to the significant losses because generally its presence leads to the total rejection. So here these white these are the Cysticercus ovis. They generally they get calcified and become the measles like structure. So on the live animal, you usually do not see any kind of effect on the sheep, and there will be no ill health, and you just find it during the post-mortem inspection only. So sheep measles is they are usually found in heart. Here you see there are so many sheep measles. So in more severe cases, cyst can be found in muscle tissues such as diaphragm and masseter muscles. So here the cyst is oval and white cream color. Here the older cyst become hard and calcified. If it is found in less than 3 different sites, then it is generally trimmed and the localized part is rejected. But if it is found in more than 3 places and a significant amount of muscle is affecting with sheep measle, then we need to condemn the whole carcass along with this offal. So here you can see the calcified one. It is we found here in Himachal. Very commonly it is found. Next is Cysticercus tenucollis. So Cysticercus tenucollis is the larval stage of the dog or the fox tapeworm, that is Taenia hydatidina. Here the sheep become infected by ingesting food or water that is contaminated with the eggs. So there is a huge loss to the industry, meat industry, because of this Cysticercus tenucollis. And if we talk about the live animal, so symptoms include loss of appetite, leading sheep to become weaker, more vulnerable to other infections. They will be emaciated, and there will be a severe weight loss. So what are the impact on carcasses? So this Cysticercus tenucollis, they form pockets full of fluid containing one tapeworm head. So here you can see here also. So infested animal may have a dozen or more pockets. So cysts are mainly found in liver and on the surface of abdominal organs. So presence of this Cysticercus tenucollis, they usually lead to the infected organ or part rejected. So, because there is a loss of appetite, so the meat production will obviously will be on the lower side. The next is the hydrated cyst we found during post-mortem inspection. So it is caused by tapeworm Echinococcus granulosus, and in live animals, it can interfere with the function of organ in which they insist, leading to poor growth and reduced milk production. However, there's no symptoms are seen because these cysts they grow slowly. So what is the effect on the carcass? So these fluid-filled cysts of the larva tapeworm, they are usually found in liver, lung, and other internal organs. So there will be the condemnation of the affected organs. They will be rejected, and then poor carcass weight, poor meat yield, and rejection of the whole carcass if it is found together with emaciation. So if the animal is emaciated as well as lot of cysts are present in the body, so we will condemn the whole carcass. It is also associated with the public health risk because it is an important zoonotic disease, and in human it usually develops in the liver and lungs, and rarely cysts form in the bones, which where it cause spontaneous fractures, or in brain it cause the neurological signs. So cyst in the body, it occasionally rupture and cause severe allergic reaction in humans. So here you can found the cyst. Then next, sometimes we found abscess in the liver, which is associated with the acidosis in the finishing cattle and sometimes in the goats. Here, reduced feed intake can be seen in live animals. Poor body condition and weight loss, unexplained diarrhea, raised temperature, pulse rate and respiratory rate rise, lethargy, pneumonia, and bleeding from nose can be seen. So in case of carcass, here the liver is basically rejected, and lower carcass weight and higher level of carcass streaming due to the abscess adhesion to the diaphragm and surrounding organs. So it leads to a great economic loss. So next we found usually the liver fluke. Here in facial losses, the animal infected with liver fluke typically have poor performance, lose weight, there is a weight loss and become anemic. So if we find the clear antemortem signs that can be correlated with reduced milk yield or occasional death caused by acute or untreated chronic infection in the herd, and impact on the carcass is the infected livers are rejected and poor carcass classification, and there will be a lower carcass weight. These are the liver which are infected with the liver flukes, and here is a track of there are the tracks of liver flukes. Then pneumonia, mycoplasma like or Pasteurella like pneumonia. So it can be caused by a variety of infectious agents, including bacteria, parasites, and viruses. So Pasteurella like pneumonia, you can see the lung status of the lungs. However, in case mycoplasma like pneumonia, it is visually you can see that okay, it is not normal. Then in live animals, they can be correlated with reduced appetite, increased breathing rate and efforts, looking depressed, loss of condition, coughing, nasal discharge, and death. And if we talk about the carcass, here the affected lung is rejected and lower carcass weight will be found. And if this occurs, the carcass and their offals, they are rejected for the human consumption. The next is lungworm. So parasitic bronchitis is a parasitic infection that is basically a respiratory tract disease caused by Dictocholus filaria in sheep, and other sheep lungworms are Malarius capillaris and Prostrongylitis rufescens, which are found generally during the inspection. In live animals, they can be correlated with the coughing within the herd or the reduced weight gain and the milk yield. So here you can see the Dictocholus filaria, these white thread-like structures. So if we are finding in the lungs, the lung will be rejected and the overall weight of the carcass will be lower. So post-mortem judgment will include two things mainly. Okay, the carcass is fit for consumption or it is unfit for human consumption. Either it is totally condemned or it is partially condemned. So affected organs must be condemned while rest can be passed for the human consumption. So in which conditions you will go for the total rejection? First is Cysticercus ovis, then emaciation or generalized edema, then hydatidosis, jaundice, multiple abscesses if you find, then polyarthritis, or the septicemia or fever you are encountering in the sheep and goat.